Hey everyone, Aaron here, and this is my 36th review on this channel, and that is of Danganronpa, the animation. Now, Danganronpa is actually a video game series that was very popular in Japan. It originally came out on the PSP. Later on, the PS Vita came out in the States, and within, I think, a year, they released Danganronpa, the Vita version, in the States, and it actually became a very niche game. A lot of people actually liked it that played it on the Vita, and we even got just recently the third game, which came out. Which, I'm not gonna spoil anything about that, but it kind of made the series, I think, very popular in general. So what they did was they made an animation about it, and at times the animation is very good, and at times it suffers because, again, it's one of those adaptation type things. It's the same thing that I say happens with light novels and manga, or games that become anime. It's just that things happen. They take away some of the elements from the games to reduce the time period that's going to be in the animation, and it works and doesn't work sometimes. So Danganronpa's main premise is that our main characters are all elite students, or called ultimates as they're known. And they're ultimates in the sense that they're ultimates in their field. So for example, we have the ultimate athlete, the ultimate lucky student, the ultimate nerd, the ultimate fashion diva, etc., etc. And it's interesting because what happens initially right away is that our main characters are thrown into a school by this weird, creepy, white/black bear thing called Monokuma, who tells them that they have two options. They can either live the rest of their lives in the school, only being around each other, no one else, or B, kill off one another and only till one exists so they can get out of the school. But the killer must not be found. And during the court trials, if the killer is not found, that killer can get away and wins the game. If he is found, he's killed. So essentially, the Danganronpa games, just to explain it better to you guys, are like Phoenix Wright games, in which they are detective parts, like where you look for clues and try to figure out who killed who. And then there are trial parts where you have to then convince the rest of the group this is the killer and why that's the killer. And the animation does the same thing in terms of how it presents itself, where because right away the students are not willing to live with each other for the rest of their lives, one of the students kills another student, and lo and behold, our main character Makoto Naegi, who is the guy dead center in the whole thing, he ends up having to figure out who is the killer by looking at clues, investigating crime scenes in the school, and overall then seeks to try to convince the other students this is the killer, why that is the killer. And it works in terms of video games. I think that it's actually Phoenix Wright games in general, like that, those type of games always are fun to play because they mix the line between visual novel and mystery games, and I think that's fun. Animation wise, your miles may vary here, where because I think I watched Danganronpa, or excuse me, I played the game before I watched this, it made me dislike the show a little bit because they cut out a lot of what makes Danganronpa so great, and that's the characters. The characters are the game's biggest strength in that they have very detailed backgrounds, and their backgrounds are essential to figuring out the plot, the overarching plot of why the students are in the predicament they are in. While the animation kind of, for time purposes, because I think it's only 13 episodes or maybe 12, it cuts out a lot of the filler in terms of, talking about characters, and just skips to right away the crime scenes and right away what's happening and who the killer is, without detailing too much about who they are. So because of that, it suffers background story-wise. It suffers the overall story and plot kind of dip and, gain height here and there, but overall it just hits this note that's like, it's okay. The animation for Danganronpa is really good. I actually particularly like the kind of quirkiness that the characters have. For example, when someone's killed, they don't show the blood as red blood, but they show it pink. And I think, people complain about that, but I think that's kind of visually appealing. It looks interesting. Like, it doesn't need to use overly grotesque scenes. It instead uses the concept of them. Like, for example, when the students was killed with a knife or something like that, it doesn't show it so violently. More so, it shows it more artistic, and I think that's pretty cool for the show. It works in the video games. It works in the show as well. I think even more in the anime. The voice acting is all Japanese dub. I don't think there's an English release so far for this. but that is actually very good, and the soundtrack's phenomenal. Danganronpa has a very interesting soundtrack. So overall, if I had to give Danganronpa A through F, I give it a solid B. Again, that also might be a bias on my part, and I apologize for that. But I had played all the Danganronpa games so far, even playing right now currently the third one, and it makes me go into the animation, I think, with more of a kind of biased already, because I didn't think the animation would be particularly great, but I didn't think it'd be bad either. But at the same time, again, it does things that I wish it didn't because of time constraints. They can't talk about every character, they can't delve into every character's background story, and that's something the games did very well. And the show not doing that kind of destroys that plot and destroys a little bit of the greatness of the background stories of characters. But again, B is not a bad score. It's still, I say, hey, if you're a fan of Danganronpa, watch this with a grain of salt. If you're not a fan of the games and you just want to watch anime, this actually might be a good place for you to just start and watch this right away. So anyways, guys, that's it for my review. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please like, comment, subscribe. I continue putting the request in for anime. I'll keep trying to review them. I'm sorry if I'm doing a little late with some of them because I'm in college, so it's a little hard for me to watch anime constantly. But until our paths cross again in the next review, everyone, have a good one. Bye.